Boa noite, galera. Tudo bem aí? This is Mickey D from the Mickey D2 Rumble channel at Mickey D2 on Gab for the Far Q profile, and now also on Telegram at Mickey D2 as well, folks. Well, it's Friday night, about 8:30 I think in the evening, maybe a touch later, and it's been a big day. Very emotional day here in Brazil, as you all are now aware that President Bolsonaro had his first full speech, a live broadcast from Brasilia too. So first of all, well, I suppose he could still have gone to Orlando on Wednesday and he possibly could have come back yesterday as well. It's a possibility, I suppose. I suppose we'll never know either, because it has been completely tight-lipped. It's been almost impossible to know. But I do still imagine that Michelle and their daughter were on the plane going to Orlando. 1 second. But surely didn't come back. So I'm sure that we got at least half of that right. But whether the president himself went as well, we don't know, because there really wasn't much of him in the last 24 to 48 hours until this morning. I don't know exactly where he was, so maybe he did go. But we all know that most people, or at least a lot of people, have taken his speech as throwing in the towel, waving the white flag, or surrendering. I'm not so sure, folks. I know it's a little bit difficult right now to stay positive, but I sort of went back and had a look at a lot of the things that he's done over the last 2 months, and it still just makes completely zero sense in my mind why he would even bother if he was going to leave. There is also the possibility, I suppose, that he did try his hardest to garner support for an intervention but couldn't get it, although I find that a little bit difficult to believe if we are to believe what people say, that he had majority support within the armed forces, and it seems he did, but we also know there were some infiltrators in there. There were some moles who got called out. That was reported by Gateway Pundit. I did mention this a few weeks ago, that there was someone who was found to be a mole. I think that was through Paulo Figueiredo. But so let's just think about some of the things that he did in this last couple of weeks. So for a start, and obviously he still hasn't moved out of the residence. Yeah. Even though we did have confirmation today that he has taken off and flown to the US again, or it seems like he's heading towards the US, might be almost arriving there now. And there are, well, first of all, the mainstream media reported on this, and I was so shocked to discover that the mainstream media had that right. He told CNN Brazil, I watched the interview, which said he wasn't going to go, that he was going to be here. And then yesterday we started to see all these reports saying that he was going to go and spend New Year's Eve in the USA again in Mar-a-Lago. Now, I was discounting that as fake news, but it looks like it turns out it's going to be correct, which makes me ask the question, why did the mainstream media know about this? How did they get to know about it, yet the alternative media know? It sounds a little strange that the mainstream media would get that right. It almost sounds like Bolsonaro wanted that broadcast to the world via the mainstream media. Just speculation. But also circulating around, I think it was on Telegram, that his legal counsel advised him to get out of the country ASAP, because he will no longer have immunity in his presidency, well, that he has had for the whole time he has been in politics, really, but in particular now as president. So he no longer has that immunity, which means he is open to being arrested for a number of things that he's being investigated for. Now, my question is, what I've heard at least is that he plans to go. Oops, drop my book here. He plans to go to the US for a month or 2 months maximum. Now, if that's the case, how's he going to come back if he's being investigated? Like, it won't change a thing. I've heard that even he's only going to go for a few days and come back. Well, again, if he's being investigated, he can't come back. He'll have to stay away for, well, indefinitely, because they're not just going to wrap up these investigations and say, okay, it's all done, finished now, you can come back, Mr. Bolsonaro. No. If he really is being investigated, he's gone for good. He will not be able to come back. But it sounds to me like he has no plans of staying there or staying out of the country for good. And from all indications, he still hasn't even packed up and left the Palacio de Alvarado, his official residence. So it's still very suspicious, guys, in my point of view. I don't think we'll see the end of it. Getting back to what I was saying, that we need to remember, if I can get in the light, well, we know that yesterday the army protected the campers and the protesters in Brasilia when the federal police and the transport department agents came to clear them out. The army came onto the scene very quick and encircled them and protected them. And the reason I say that is because the same thing happened today in Vila Velha, a city in Espírito Santo state, which is a very small state, a coastal state just above Rio, one of the most dangerous states as well. But they came out and protected the people at the protest again today. And I'll post that video in the description box that was shared with our man at the Brazilian Report. So why is the army protecting the protesters still? This doesn't make any sense either, folks. So what I think, well, I'll get to what I think is going to happen in a second, but we also know that he made wholesale changes to his cabinet and to positions in the last 2 months, and particularly in the last month and the last couple of weeks. We know just last week he made 300 changes. Again, why would he do that if he was going to vacate the presidency for good? Also, all the decrees that came out in the official diary of the Union, or purchasing military equipment, diesel, allowing the army to land and take off from any airports they want, allowing them to fill up with gasoline at practically any gas station they want around the country. These purchases for millions and millions of reais of material and equipment in a case of the GLO, this guarantee of law and order. All these things just don't make sense if he was going to vacate the presidency for good, folks. He also gave the Ministry of Defense and the Supreme Military Court superseding power over the Federal Supreme Court, the STF. And that again makes no sense if he was going to leave the presidency for good. I think we've got a long game happening, folks. I don't think we're talking about a quick fix. I think we possibly had it in our heads, including me, that the military was going to come in, arrest the turtle and the squid and all their thugs, and we're going to have a few days where things are going to be, we're going to be a little bit edgy, and maybe we're going to stay home, and then it was all going to be rosy. But I think what has happened today has, at the very least, shown us that what we've got in front of us is a war. It's a conflict that is going to go for longer than just a couple of months, until from the elections until the squid got inaugurated. And I believe, and this is from Bolso's speech today, he said that what happens in one country has an impact on the world. He said that he needed support from other areas to be able to do what he's going to do. I think he was telling us little things that, folks, we've got a lot of pressure from external forces, not just internal forces. And I believe we've got NATO And although NATO has nothing to do with, I know, with this part of the world, but even so, it's a European alliance and the United States putting a lot of pressure on this whole situation, and they're probably telling him that he should not do anything, otherwise there would be consequences for Brazil. And you know, this is a very real possibility. I'm probably even willing to say it's a certainty, folks. It's not just a case of Cuba and Venezuela and, you know, all these local countries putting up a fight or putting up a sting. This is the whole world, because Brazil is too important. If Brazil goes forward, goes ahead, starts prospering in a way that shocks people, it's gonna spark a worldwide revolution. I think the deep state knows that more than even perhaps we realise. And if you listen to my summary of Bolsonaro's speech today, you will have heard that he talked about how Brazil has a surplus, how, you know, he managed to do so many things for this country and still end up with money in the bank. How's that? Because he cut corruption, folks. That's what he did. He stopped all these backhands, all these under the table payments and all this garbage that goes on between these corrupt pieces of shit. He stopped all that, and look at the money they had left over. And even he did all this even with the huge pushback and resistance and absolute attacks and who knows what else from the mainstream media, from the left, and from everyone who was against him, everyone who was corrupt, who was against him. And he still managed to accomplish all these things in his presidency because he stopped corruption enough that he could do so many things and still end with money in the bank. And people are seeing that. And I think he was very smart in explaining this today in his speech. Now, what else did he do? And the military movement that we've seen, I need to just reiterate that as well. In my 14 years here, I've told you in previous videos, I've rarely seen military movement, trucks, anything on the streets. And in this last 2 weeks, we have just seen unprecedented amounts of military equipment, tanks and personnel, even soldiers, moving around the country. And even today, I saw it again. I forget where. I'll put it in the short video in the description box. It was again from the Brazilian Report. It's really good. So many people from around the country send information, send videos and stuff to him. I'll just turn around because I'm not ready to get to the protest yet. It'll be too noisy for me. So I'll turn around and just keep going back this way to finish what I've got to say first. So still today there were tanks on the street. I think it might have been Brasilia actually. There were tanks on the street today. So I don't know, folks. I got a couple of theories in my mind which I will put to you in just a second, but it's just not adding up at the moment. So let me just read what I've got. So I think one other thing too, just to let you folks know that it seems like the people haven't given up. Like I've walked through the protest just now before I started filming, although you can feel the atmosphere, the energy's a little lower. The chant hasn't got that real venom in the voice today. It's a little more subdued, but they're still here. The people are still here. I don't think anyone has stopped protesting. If anything, it's probably grown a little bit today compared to the last few days, but certainly not the energy that we've seen up until now at the protests. But I can say that the people are still here, and around the country too, they're still here. Lots of film, lots of footage are getting out showing that the people haven't given up yet, which is a good sign. And also I heard today, which is a little concerning perhaps, that it seems like protesters in São Paulo, in some parts of São Paulo, the state, have started barricading the highways already. They've started stopping traffic from moving on the main freeways and highways, which is that like I've said in previous videos, is a certain way of escalating chaos in the country quite quickly. So let's see how that plays out. I'll keep an eye on it. But now I just want to give a couple of possible scenarios that I've been thinking, because in light of what I just told you, the information I just gave you, and there's more too that I've forgotten, but it sounds like one of a couple of things are happening. One could be that they want Bolsonaro out of power, like seemingly out of power, so that when the military does something, that the people, especially the people on the left, they cannot blame Bolsonaro for this, because you have to understand the media's been brainwashing them for 4 years to think that he's a dictator, and there are a lot of people, it doesn't really matter what you say, they think he's a dictator, and these are the brainwashed lefties, like all around the world, the same around the world really. But so number one is they could be getting Bolsonaro out of the picture for his safety and also for optics, so when shit hits the fan, he won't be here for them to blame him for doing it. It'll be the military will say, no, we've done it. Now that's just one possible scenario that I see. But another scenario I see, which I think is possibly the most probable one in my mind, is that because we know that if they're going to implement this GLO, they can't just come onto the street for no reason. The army has to come onto the street for a reason. Like if Bolsonaro was to enact Article 142, I think that's a different story, but it looks like now he won't be, because he's out of the country now, he's gone for the time being. So I think now it's down to the army, and I think the Rio Times, no, it was the Tupi report, I think, the Tupi report, that I think Froggy reported on, Frog World News reported on, that now I think it's General Braga Neto, I can't remember, but it was his vice who has now taken over the presidency in the interim for these next 48 hours, who is a general as well. So what I'm thinking might happen, and this, not saying this will happen before the 1st, I'm probably thinking this is going to happen after the 1st now, so we're in for some pretty nervy, pretty rotten times over the coming days. But what I see possibly happening, folks, is that the squid is going to, or the turtle, they're going to order the feds and who knows who else, whether it's the military police as well, or whether it is the transport department like it was in Brasilia yesterday. They're going to order these thugs to come and try to clear out the protest, and you'll see the army coming in, as they have done in Brasilia yesterday and in Vila Velha in Espírito Santo today, to protect the people. And we could see a showdown between the military and the federal police, or the government law enforcement agencies. Now I think that is definitely a possibility, and if that causes chaos, then we will have the conditions necessary for the army to come on and to implement this GLO. So folks, that's what I'm seeing as being probably the most possible scenario. Let me see if I've got anything else from here to say. So we just need to remember a couple of things that he said during the day today. He said during his speech that he talked about this 30 days. He said we've got 30 days of recess now. So the Parliament or Congress must go back in February, on February the 1st. So he talked about this 30 days, and he also said at the end that it wasn't going to take long. He said, "Não vai demorar muito." Now this to me was one of the biggest things he said in the whole speech. Like, how would you say that if you were only expecting to come back or to try again in 4 years' time? Folks, things aren't adding up. I'm not prepared just now to pack my bags and to leave Brazil. I'm going to take the risk and hang around for a little longer, because I think there is a plan in place still. We should have been prepared for a scare We should not have thought that everything was going to go so perfectly and everything would be resolved as quickly and as efficiently as we all hoped it would be, but I just don't think it's going to work out like that. But at the same time, I still think there is something happening now. And what else? So I hear and see a lot of people in the comments in Gab saying that he's doing the same as President Trump. And look, folks, maybe he will. There is a chance. I have got no crystal ball, but I don't believe he's going to do it. I still believe there's a grand plan. Remember, his son Flavio said yesterday for us to believe in him, that he was going to do what's necessary. I still believe it. And folks, I'll turn the camera around now because we're at the protest and you'll see there are a lot of people here. The numbers haven't dropped at all since the last time we were here, and maybe they've even grown a little bit. But let's have a look and I'll keep talking as we go through. So you'll see, folks, a lot of people still here at the protest. This speech today by President Bolsonaro has not caused the people to give up just yet. They are still determined to hang around. And I just still don't think this thing is over, folks. The people aren't going to let it be over. Oi, tudo bem? Can we do an interview?
Tu lembra da moça que te deu a bandeira?
Sim.
Ela tá por aí?
É, eu queria falar com ela.
Não,
Fazer uma entrevista com ela.
Não, aqui dentro. Aquela lá.
É, ela tá aqui, achei. Oh, folks, I'm going to do a quick interview now with, I'm going to do a quick interview with somebody. It's actually the person who gave me this flag, so to wear around my shoulders. She doesn't speak English, but we'll just do a quick interview. She'll say a few things, I'll translate as we go, and just for you guys to get an idea of how the people are feeling. I know she's still very positive. She still thinks that we're going to have victory here, so let me just come in and say hello to her very quickly. Oi! A gente pode falar rapidinho?
Pode sim.
E qual seu nome?
Leila.
Leila. Folks, this is Leila, and I'm going to ask her how she's feeling and how the country is feeling, and whether there is still hope after President Bolsonaro's speech today, and I'll try to translate as I go. So, vamos lá. Então, falei agora que eu ia perguntar para você como você está se sentindo, como o país está se sentindo depois desse discurso dele hoje, que parece que deixou bastante gente meio desanimada depois, mas você não, eu já falei com você e você falou que não, você ainda tem muita esperança, então vamos lá. Então vai falando devagar para eu conseguir traduzir ao mesmo tempo.
Eu acredito, né?
So she believes?
Yes. Que já tá ganho.
That they've already won.
Yes, porque aqui tá os empresários,
Because
o
here
agro,
we have the business owners,
o que produz realmente a máquina brasileira.
the people who make this country run, the people that are the machine of this country,
Yes.
the mechanics.
Yes. Por isso que eu digo que Lula não sobe na rampa. E se subir, não vai ficar.
So she
Não
said-
adianta. E nem subir vai subir.
And she
Eu
said,
acredito.
sorry, she said that Lula is not going to assume the presidency, and if he does, it's not going to last long. But she said no, he won't even go. He won't even make the position. Pode continuar?
Porque eu acredito muito no povo brasileiro trabalhador, aquele que realmente paga os impostos, aquele que leva uma vida correta. Esse eu acredito.
So she believes in the people the workers in this country, the people who pay the taxes in this country, the people who do the work. That's what she believes in this country.
Eu também acredito muito que o Bolsonaro, ele foi o melhor presidente do mundo.
She believes that, and she really believes that Bolsonaro was the best president, or has been the best president in the entire world.
Quem tem empresa sentiu como foi fácil trabalhar com o Bolsonaro no governo.
So she said those people who have businesses here, they really felt how easy it was to work and to run their businesses with Bolsonaro here in power.
Eu acredito também que o Bolsonaro um dia ele falou assim, ó, vocês têm que decidir entre dever e direito.
So, pode falar.
E Lula, PT, é muito direito. Nós, empresários, não temos lucro para tanto direito que o governo da esquerda quer colocar.
Okay, so she said that Bolsonaro said it was like you have the choice between like your obligations and your rights. And she said with Lula in power, it's just all the rights, but not the right rights. It's the rights that cause a weight on the country. So, yep.
E eu acredito que o Exército vai realmente entender o que nós, empresários, estamos pedindo há 60 dias, senão eles já tinham tirado nós daqui da frente.
So she said that she believes that the armed forces, they understand what the business owners and the people who work in this country want, or especially after the 60 days, and if they didn't, they would have already removed them from the fronts of the army barracks, but the people are still here.
Eu tenho uma empresa em que há 2 meses eu não compro mais nada, esperando o resultado das eleições. E assim estão todos os empresários, gente trabalhadeira, gente honesta, gente que realmente é correta. Não é o que pregam fora do país sobre as brasileiras, sobre os brasileiros. Nós, principalmente, nós estamos na região de Santa Catarina.
So she said that, esqueci, o que você falou no começo?
Nós estamos que o trabalhador não vai aceitar.
You said at first she said that the business owners haven't bought any new stock, anything new for the last 2 months because they're waiting for this result. Pode repetir o resto mais uma vez?
Porque quem paga tudo essa brincadeira pro PT somos nós, trabalhadores.
So what she's saying is that those who pay for everything are the workers, are the business owners, and they're going to have to pay for everything for the PT party. But this is not, it won't work out that way. Things won't work. It's like that.
Eu tenho um comércio que há 2 meses eu não compro nada mais. E os comércios estão tudo assim, segurando. Então eu acredito que o nosso Brasil vai acabar se entrar Bolsonaro, se entrar Lula. Vai acabar, finalizar.
She said that no one's buying anything. People, shop owners, store owners, they're all waiting for what's happening. And she's saying that if Lula takes power, they're not going to buy things. She thinks that Brazil will come to a halt. It'll stop. So,
também eu acredito muito que o Exército vai tomar posse. Porque, gente, essa briga que está aqui 62 dias praticamente é porque de um código-fonte. Se não tivesse algo errado, por que não liberaram o código-fonte?
Exactly. She's saying she really believes that the army is going to step in and do something, and it's because they know as well as we do that the criminal TSC, they didn't, the Electoral Commission, they didn't hand over this source code for the elections. And if they were honest, if the elections were honest, why didn't they hand them over? And that's the big question that's on everyone's mind, is why haven't they handed over the source code for the elections?
Eu acredito muito que nós já ganhamos essa vitória. Tenho certeza. Lula não sobe na rampa.
So she believes we've already won. She's sure of that, and she believes that Lula will not take power. Ela, muito obrigado. Eu acho que eu concordo com você. Eu não sei como o povo vai deixar esse cara subir a rampa mesmo. Vai acontecer, não vai acontecer. Gente, did you like that? Thank you very much. Muito obrigado. Very good. Thank you. Muito obrigado.
I love America. I love America.
And not just America, muitos países, o mundo inteiro está assistindo. Está muito legal. Okay? So, thank you. Okay, guys. Wow, that was really cool. So, I hope you got a good idea of what she had to say there, but she has a lot of hope. She believes that Brazil will still win this war, that Bolsonaro hasn't given up on the people, and that the army will step in and save this country. Folks, I believe it too. I haven't given up, and I think President Bolsonaro gave us enough hints today in his speech to suggest that this thing is far from over. So let me just turn the camera around and show you what's going on here tonight. Listen to the earth tremble. We'll only leave here when it's resolved. Listen, world, pay attention. An unelectable thief will go to prison. The people are at the army barracks. Armed forces, save our nation. There you go, folks. I finally got to translate the whole chant for you. Tudo bom? Tudo bem? Ó, estamos aqui ainda. A gente não vai desistir, né?
Só depois.
Não vamos desistir.
Nós ficamos
Até o final, né?
Graça.
Vamos ficar até o final.
Até o final.
A gente não vai desistir nunca.
De jeito nenhum. Vamos até o final.
Isso aí. Vamos lá. Forte. Obrigado. So he said that we will not give up ever. We're going to fight until the end, folks, and that's the feeling I'm getting here again tonight. One more time. We are not going to give up. You can see, folks, still a lot of people here all the way down to the end of the street again. All the way down. No one has gone home just yet. We are still fighting for this country and we are not giving up. So all those people who watch these videos and were feeling down, thinking that the war is already over, that President Bolsonaro has given in, well, I'm here to tell you that his supporters are far from giving up on this war, folks. President Bolsonaro's supporters are here for as long as it takes. And I told you that. I told you they weren't going to give up. And listening to Layla, she was saying that she believes they've already won. Now it's just a matter of time before the armed forces stand in and take over and fix this country. Folks, I'm at the end of the protest now, so I will wrap this video up. So quite a long one again, but thank you very much for joining me. This is Mickey D from the Mickey D2 Rumble channel, at Mickey D2 on Gab for the FAR-Q profile, and also now on Telegram at Mickey D2 as well. Like, subscribe and share this video with all your friends and peers. We are still in this fight. We're not giving up, and it's just the beginning. It's not the end. So folks, I feel a lot better now after that. That really gave me the lift that I needed, and I think it probably has given you a slight lift as well. Folks, we're not giving up. We're still here. We're just getting going. So buckle up and get ready for a fight, because that's what we got in front of us. We got to fight. And I don't believe President Bolsonaro has given up on us by any means, and neither do the people that I've been speaking to. Folks, that'll do. Once again, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video. It's boa noite and ciao for now.